Hey there, hunters. I wanted to do a video briefly talking about some of the games I've been playing during the Steam Next Fest and what I'm looking forward to coming out in the next few months. I'm not sure how many of them are actually going to be bangers upon release, but these are at least the ones that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for, so let's just dive in and talk about them. I'm going to start with Forgive Me Father 2, which is a sequel obviously to the first game that actually came out in 2021, and it was pretty successful, so I'm glad and surprised to see such a quick turnaround for a new title. So Forgive Me Father is a first-person boomer shooter with a Cult of Cthulhu and cosmic horror theme, which I love. We need more cosmic horror games. Like other boomer shooters, it plays like a Doom mod, which isn't a dig at the game at all. Doom mods are popping lately and no one has ever said anything bad about Doom. But the real draw to this game is the art style, which is like an old heavy ink comic book, and it holds up very well in this FPS, with the aid of some really nice lighting and volumetric fog. This plays very much the same as the first, which, I mean, it's a boomer shooter, it's supposed to be simple. There's no aim down sights, it's just run and gun and make enemies explode into piles of gore, and that's exactly what I want, because the real draw to just about any shooter game is the weapons. And the guns here both feel and sound great. They provide excellent auditory feedback, and it's that satisfaction that drives the game forward. There are other unique features like spells and buffs that you can use as you build up your sanity meter, or I guess insanity meter. Though this demo is fairly limited, so we don't really have access to much of that right now. You do have the ability to purchase like one spell and a few different guns between the two levels that are available, but of course this is going to be fleshed out much more by release, as the first game had a whole web of traits and perks to build up. While this demo is short, just 2 levels like I said, it can easily be cleared in less than half an hour or so. It is still a nice taste of what's to come. And as I said previously, it's good, it's stylish, and in the end, if the game looks great and the weapons feel good, that's pretty much all I need to get hooked. So I do recommend giving the demo a try. It's free, why not? And of course, put it on your wish list to give the devs some engagement. And thankfully, it is actually due to be released next week on October 19th, so I'm definitely going to pick it up on launch. The next game I want to talk about is Gunhead, which is a mech-based roguelite, almost dungeon crawler kind of esque. The goal of this game is to board ships, take down their defenses and security systems, destroy the enemies, and then destroy the AI core, or cores if there are more than one. You start out with a basic mech and equipment, and then you set out to a target ship, which is randomly generated with various traps, enemies, loots, and layouts, and you can collect new weapons and ammo as you make your way through the ship and take down various systems. While you're completing your tasks on this ship, you're going to be awarded extra money depending on specific tasks that you've been assigned, such as destroying multiple systems in quick succession or clearing a ship within a certain time limit. Then you can spend this money to buy new mechs, weapons, and consumables. And this is where the roguelike aspect kicks in, because dying loses everything, including your mech. And you can go through multiple ships, and I don't know how far it is, but you can just keep going until you die. And you get to keep your same, equipment, mech, and all that stuff. Just don't die, you're going to start all over. Graphically, the game does look fine. It's not anything amazing, but I do like cel-shaded styles, which just remind me of Borderlands. But here in Gunhead, I do have a slight complaint with the coloring, as with the lighting and the colors being all like a blend together, like everything looks kind of samey, at least in a lot of these areas. I don't know how it's going to change later on in like more advanced ships, but it's really easy to get lost. What did catch my eye though in Gunhead is how fast the gameplay is, and yeah, it's fast. Your mech flies and dashes at pretty incredible speeds at times, and there are enemies attacking you from every which way, so expect a very hectic and zoomy experience. You also have very limited ammo for each of your weapons, so you have to be careful not to just shoot willy-nilly and waste all of it, because the only way to get more ammo and weapons is by picking them up randomly on the ship, or restocking and purchasing new weapons after you've completed your run. So you definitely will run out of ammo and will need to be hot swapping weapons on the fly, or go back to previous rooms and pick them back up. We had access to 3 levels in the demo, and while I'm not 100% sold on the game just yet, I did enjoy the time I spent with it, and I do want to give it another try when it releases. It's currently planned to launch on November 8th, hopefully not in early access, so if you're into the roguelike genre, maybe check this one out. And then we have the real gem of the next fest, another Crab's Treasure. This is as silly as it looks. Another Crab Treasure is another game from AgroCrab, who previously made Going Under and Subway Midnight. This cute oceanic game looks like a new SpongeBob game, but it holds a dark secret. This is a Souls-like. Yeah, Crab Souls. Another Crab's Treasure is a very difficult but amazing game. While this features a lot of mechanics you'd expect to see in a Souls-like, block, dodge, parry, collect currency, lose it on death, go back to collect your body, tough boss fights, It does all of that in its bright, colorful, and downright cute aesthetic that's definitely going to throw people off in kind of the best way. I'm glad to see Souls-likes that aren't like, dark, gritty, world full of darkness and despair and hopelessness kind of thing. I guess that's still slightly accurate here though, in another crab treasure, as the ocean is polluted, full of garbage and plastic and poisoning the ocean, as it actually is. But the real hook here is that the gameplay is actually incredibly deep. You play as a hermit crab, and you need to constantly be swapping shells made of garbage as they break, which makes sense if you ignore all the other crabs using weapons, and does not feel like it's a detriment to the game at all. Each shell has different kinds of armors, weight ratings, and the abilities that you can use with them, which makes them feel almost like a Kirby game at times. You can also explore and collect all sorts of tag-along organisms, which provide all sorts of buffs to you, but are lost when you die unless you're at a boss checkpoint, which is nice. You're not even locked into like melee combat here either. You can use fish hooks to pull enemies with this little fishing mini game, which is kind of hard to do on a mouse. You can use shell abilities that have ranged attacks as a form of magic, and you can unlock skills that also burn magic meter and just build around that. So there's like a lot going on here, where it definitely doesn't look like it should be as deep as it is. And yeah, combat is deep. It's got nice dodges, the iframes are not generous, so you have to be very precise with your inputs. You can't just spam dodges and blocks and stuff. And you can block, but that's going to eat your shell durability, so you got to be really careful with that. You can parry, you can jump and kind of hover. You have charge attacks, plunging attacks, of course combos. And I didn't see another weapon in the demo, but hopefully we will get a variety of weapons by launch, which would be nice, but also not necessarily mandatory, as we have seen plenty of Souls games with a static weapon. Now, unfortunately, another crab treasure does not have a set release date, just sometime planned in 2024, which could be a long ways off, but that does give the game plenty of time to develop and polish, which it still definitely needs, as performance is kind of all over the place. While it ran great on my desktop with the 3070, my laptop running a 2060 could not sustain the second level at all, which is kind of crazy to see the difference between these two computers, and I really don't think the game should be as demanding on your hardware as it is. But 100% I'm absolutely getting this in every demo, early access, beta, whatever comes out for this, because I love this game. I'm just hooked. The next game I played was Ghostrunner 2, which is already pretty popular and has a lot of attention, so I won't talk too much about it. But Ghostrunner 2 is a speedrunner game in a cyberpunk setting, and it has some pretty amazing level designs, world building, and lighting. While graphically it's not the best thing, it still looks incredibly pretty, and it's hard carried by just the art team's use of lighting and assets and excellent modeling and map design, and it is still very gorgeous. If you're unsure what a speedrunner game is, think Neon White. It's an emerging genre that's getting more and more popular. It's basically like you never stop moving, one hit kills you, you're just trying to run, parkour, and kill enemies in your path as fast as possible, and run through the levels. While this genre isn't exactly my cup of tea, I can definitely appreciate the game for what it is, and I can only imagine how crazy actual speedruns are going to be of this when it's out. Ghostrunner's gameplay is very smooth, it's fast, and it's extremely satisfying when you can nail all the precision required to blitz through areas. I'm personally not a fan of enemies staying dead and not respawning if you fail to clear a room entirely. There are a few of those sections in the demos, I don't know if that's a bug or not. But basically I would die and half the room would stay dead. And I felt like that's kind of a bummer, because I feel like the appeal of these kinds of games is the rush of success when you can actually nail that precise set of movements to get through all the obstacles in a given area without taking that one lethal blow. I hope that's a bug or just a small design decision that can be changed in the future, because that's really my only gripe I had with this game. There's just too many little checkpoints. I never really felt penalized for dying, which I did do quite a bit. Again though, this genre is just not for me. Though this is still a very spectacularly polished game, and it ran very perfectly. Never had a hiccup, crash, bug, nothing. It's due to launch near the end of the month on October 26th, and I feel like the game's just going to sell just fine, especially because the cyberpunk theme being so popular right now, and Ghostrunner 2 offers you an entirely different experience that you're not going to get in Night City. Well, hope it does well, and I'll keep an eye on the reviews when it fully launches. And then the last game I enjoyed was Sentry. I picked the demo up on a whim and was pleasantly surprised on how good this game is. Sentry is a 4-player co-op first-person shooter tower defense. Kinda similar to Orcs Must Die, which was fantastic, but this is a 4-player co-op space shooter. While the demo doesn't have the multiplayer capacity, I could instantly recognize how crazy and fun this is going to be playing with friends. The gameplay loop is pretty simple, which makes picking it up and playing a game really quick and easy. You select the level, of which we have 2 right now, you select your difficulty, and then you go right into your loadout, which gives you a large variety of items which you can fit into your kit, You can select your weapons, consumables, craftable things, and passive perks to suit your playstyle. I kind of like that you have a limit of what you're allowed to bring, so you can coordinate with other players to bring a wider variety of buildable objects and traps and such. You are then going to be dropped into your map where you're given a build phase where you have a certain amount of time and materials to plan and build your traps. And you can see where enemies are going to spawn and where they're going to go, and then you're just going to start. And there are multiple passageways and obstacles that enemies are going to be using on higher difficulties, making the pathways not so linear as they appear in the demo. And so when you're done sitting up, you can start the wave and the enemies are just going to burst through the door and begin. Unlike traditional tower defense games, these enemies are not just going to run past you and race to the finish. They're going to destroy your turrets, they're going to shoot you on sight, giving you plenty of fortunate enemies to actually fight, not just mow down. While I personally found the demo a little too easy, that's likely because, well, I mean, it's a demo and we only had like the first 2 levels. So I fully believe that that's intentional just to get people's foot in the door. I definitely want to experience other levels and much harder content with this game. I also want to attribute the difficulty to the weapons just being so good and they feel great to use. Most weapons have an alternate fire mode to spicing them up as well. The SMG can be typically used as a mag dump gun, or you can swap to a slower rate of fire but it consumes 5 bullets per shot to deal some seriously heavy damage to enemies. The pistols can be swapped to burst fire mode or use sticky grenades. The assault rifle of course has its grenade attachment, and these guns all sound meaty, they feel meaty, and they gibletize enemies pretty well, which is always very satisfying, and it's probably why everything feels great. And I hope there's just going to be a larger wave of enemies in the future to make the game harder without sacrificing the power of the weapons by making, them weaker or enemies more bullet spongy. Because honestly, I really love how the weapons feel right now. Anyway, as you kill your enemies, they're going to drop scraps which you can pick up, and this is going to extend the limit of your building supplies, so you can craft more objects in the middle of a wave, or wait till the end of the wave. You're going to have a small grace period between your waves to restock health and ammo, and then place more traps and device, and just try to get through all their waves. The overall gameplay loop is simple, it's a tower defense game, but it is very enjoyable to play just because the added element of the gunplay, feeling excellent overall. Sentry is definitely one of my favorite games I've played during this Steam Next Fest, and I highly recommend everyone give it a try, because I totes want to get more people into playing multiplayer for this when it comes out. So, unfortunately it doesn't have a launch date scheduled yet, so we're just going to have to wait and see what the future announcements are in store for Sentry. While I did try a few other demos out during the Steam Next Fest, I wasn't really impressed with them, but I will be checking up on these titles and maybe some other ones if I get some recommendations. But these are the games I was excited to see and that I enjoyed playing, so stay tuned for updates on these in the future, and if anyone wants to talk shop about gaming in general, feel free to join my Discord in the description below. But thanks, that's going to be all for me. Thank you for watching, thank you to my Patreon members, appreciate you all, and good luck out there, hunters.